Hi, welcome again. Today I'm going to show you something I'm really excited about. And this is landscape deformation support that comes with OpenLand. You can dynamically change the landscape like this, and also you can create foot trails that I'll show you in a moment. Also, you can create dynamic visual effects and a lot of interesting things. And the cool thing is here we are using the Virtual HeightField Mesh. Once we have the UE5 public release, we can definitely use this functionality without changing anything in your code base. Right now it works sometimes because there are some crashes in UE5. We are not recommending to try this on UE5, but it works. And now let me show you the trail support. So basically you can see some footprints when you are walking on this sand area. All right, like this. Basically you can see footprints like this. You can customize these brushes as you need. You can totally configure everything in your scene. And you can see there are some flickering effects sometimes. That's totally fine. That's because we are changing the RVT quite often. You can change that behavior by going into the OpenLand Deform Manager, and you can change the RVT invalidation time to like maybe like this. And after that we can play the game, and then we don't see any flickering because we don't change the RVT quite often. Anyway, I'll explain all these things in a moment so you have fully control on how to use this functionality. All right, let's create a fresh level and let's get started. And also I'll show you how to do this with OpenLand landscape material first, and then I'm going to show you how to create this using a plain landscape material. So you can use this with any sort of landscape material you have, whether it's Brushify or maybe something custom that you created. All right, let's get started. Okay, the first thing is you need to get the OpenLand landscape material and check the description below on how to get that. And then you need to enable virtual texture and virtual HeightField Mesh support. And here's how to do that. Go to Edit, Project Settings, and search for Virtual. And here we have an option called Enable Virtual Texture Support. Make sure to enable that. Then close this. And then go to Edit, Plugins, and search for Virtual. And here we have a plugin called Virtual HeightField Mesh, and you need to enable this. And also make sure to have a plugin called Editor Scripting Utilities, this one, and make sure to hit this enable button. And sometimes it's enabled, so if that's fine. If that's not, you make sure to enable that. Now you can restart your project. So basically you need to close this project and start again. Since I have already enabled these plugins and settings, I can continue to work on my project. Then I'm going to go to File and create a new level because I'm going to start from scratch. Empty level. Then let's save it and let's give it a name, Tutorial. Right, so it's dark like this because we don't have light source. Then I'm going to go to Content, OpenLand, go to Blueprints, and here we have a blueprint called Sun Sky. So it will give a simple sky setup for us, so we can continue to work on our project. Then go to Mods, Landscape. Now we are going to create a landscape from scratch. Here we are using OpenLand as a landscape material. To get that, go to the OpenLand directory, Themes, Default, and then you need to create this mi_OpenLand theme default. And ideally you need to create a duplicate of this one and use that, but right now I'm going to use this for simplicity. And check our documentation on modular development so you can have a good idea of how to create your own material instance and continue the development. So that's the best way to do that, but right now since this is a tutorial, I'm going to simply use this. Then I'm going to hit this arrow icon. So here we have this material, and then I'm gonna create a new landscape, create like this, and I'm going to go to the paint section. I'm gonna select the auto material as this one, like this, and then I'll do some sculpting. So I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna sculpt it a little bit like this. So it's not important to have something like this, but I'm gonna simply sculpt something. And then I'm going to go to the paint section. I'm gonna paint some sand, so we can enable the landscape deformation support on this section. Right, I'm gonna paint some sand like this. All right, then I'm gonna close this. Now we have a sand layer like this. Yep, it looks pretty decent. All right, now let's try to add the Virtual HeightField Mesh support for our landscape. It's really easy to do. Open your OpenLand directory, widgets directory, and here we have a widget called OpenLand HFMesh widget. Right click on that and click this button, Run Editor Utility Widget, and then hit this Add HFMesh Support. Right, then it will ask you to do some steps like this, but I'm going to show you how to do that right now. I'm going to close this window. First select the RVT volume height from the world outliner, and select the virtual texture at RVT OpenLand height, and it's really important to select this one. And for the RVT volume material on the world outline, and select the RVT OpenLand material, and then select the virtual HFMesh on your world outliner and select the virtual texture as RVT volume height. So now this will add the virtual HeightField Mesh support, but there is one thing we have to do. Go to your landscape and search virtual, and here we have an option called draw in main pass, and try to say it never. So this will make sure that we don't render our landscape when you are playing the game, so we only have the virtual HeightField Mesh. So that's a really important thing. Now if we go to the brush wireframe mode, you can see a landscape with quite high density like this, and this is the default landscape. It doesn't have much details, you can see on these yellow triangles, but virtual HeightField Mesh, yeah, quite a lot. Right, now we are ready, and let's try to add the deformation support. So all you have to do is go to the OpenLand directory, go to the blueprints directory, and here we have a directory called Deform, and here we have another blueprint called OpenLand Deform Manager. Simply drag that into your scene. Now select your landscape and search for dynamic, and make sure to click this option, use dynamic material instance, and this is really important. So basically with this we can control some of the settings in our landscape material using blueprints and some other things. So that's why we need this functionality. Alright, now let's play our game. Now we can see some deformation in our landscape, but it's quite subtle. But let's try to increase this and show you how to do that. Try to open your landscape material. So I'm gonna select the landscape and double click and open this landscape material. So this is the OpenLand material instance. Here search for deform. So here you can see we have enabled landscape deformation support for these layers: sand, custom 1, custom 2, and puddles. So these are the only layers that has the landscape deformation support, but of course you can change these as you wish. I'll show you that in a moment. So here we have this sand height. The deform max height is 15 centimeters, but I'm gonna increase that to 100. So you can see something interesting, right, like this. So this is not really useful for a game sometimes maybe, but you can get the idea. So it's working, and we can continue to work on this. Right, so now this is just the default way that we can see how the trail system works, and this is enabled by default. If you go to the OpenLand Deform Manager, here we have option called follow player character, so that's why we can see this trail like this, but it's just for the debugging purpose that you can see that this functionality is working. But right now I'm gonna uncheck that, so we don't have this functionality like this. So then we can try to add the foot trail support, so we can customize our player character blueprint, and we can add those footprints component directly. All right, let's do it. First I'm gonna open my landscape material instance, and here we have the deform height. I think 100 is quite high. I'm gonna set that to 20, and I'm gonna save this. Okay, and then I'm gonna play my game, and you can see there's nothing happens because we haven't added that functionality. Now we have to open our character blueprint. Here we are using the simple third-person example map, and here our character blueprint located at here, content third-person BP blueprints, and this one in your game or your project this could be something else, and then try to open that character blueprint. Right now we're gonna add some scene components to these foots over here. So select your mesh and hit this add component and search for OpenLand. Here we have a component called OpenLand Deform component, and select that. Then you need to add another one because we have 2 foots, right, like this. And then you can select one of this and go to the details panel, and here we have something called sockets, and search for foot, and I'm going to select the foot underscore L. So in this character skeleton, and this is the skeleton socket for the foot, I'm going to select it like this. So we need to place it at the bottom of the foot. You don't need to do it sharply, but simply eyeball this like this, and then I'm going to do that for the other foot as well. Right, I'm going to select the other component, and from the sockets I'm going to select foot underscore R, so right component, and I'm going to position it like this. Right, I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to play my game. Right, now we can see there are some trails, see, as I walk over the sand area, you can see this. But in this sand, it already has some footprints in the texture, so that's why it's really hard to see these trails. I'm gonna change this sand area into something else. Here I'm gonna open the landscape section. Here paint section. So here we have another layer called puddles. I'm gonna paint this puddles layer on over here like this, and it will sometimes show you something like this. That's totally fine. So all you have to do is simply do the painting and save this, and then you need to open your level again. Right now we have something like this. Okay, now I'm gonna play my level, and right now we can clearly see these footprints like this. So right now I'm using a very simple hole as the foot brush. So it's a simple hole material, but you can customize and give some very interesting shape. And let's try to do that. And open your character blueprint, and here we have added some components, and here you can see some settings, and here we have something called max depth. For example, here for the max depth, I'm gonna set something like 2000, quite high number, that means 20 meters. Then I can play my character. If I jump, you can see it will still do something into my, yeah, like this. So you can control that by using this value. So right now we simply attach that to the bottom of the foot, and then 25 centimeters is more than enough. Maybe just 5 centimeters would work. Right, that's the max depth. And area size is the area of this material. For example, right now is 40 centimeters. If I set to something like maybe 100 centimeters for this foot, that's our left foot. And if I play this game, now you can see for the left foot we have like a hole about 100 centimeters like this. So you can control that using that value. Okay, and then finally we have this brush material. So under the settings, so this is the material that provide the brush. Right now it's a simple hole, you can see over here, but there are some interesting options that you can change this behavior. In order to do that, I'm gonna locate this brush over here. I'm gonna select the search icon, and it will go to the place that we have the brush over here. Now I'm gonna duplicate this brush. So I'm gonna select my foot. Here we already have a brush for the foot support, but you can simply use this brush, my deform brush foot. But here I'm trying to create a new one just for the sake of this tutorial. Right, and I'm gonna select this cube, and so we have something like this. Right, and then I'm going to select the real-time option, and I'm going to select that, and I'll show you why that in a moment. Here we have something called warp scale. I'm going to increase this. Right, so as you increase that, so there are some changes in our material. You can see like this. So it will create some variation in our material, variation in our hole, and that's something interesting. You can select a value that you like. And there are some speed changes you can do like this. And the idea is like as if you walk through your puddle or you walk through your sand area, there are some different variation for each and every time. That's why this warp speed is here. But if you don't need the functionality, simply put that value to 0. It will be something static. But the default value is just fine. And then you can scale this material for footpath, and I think we can simply reduce the Y scale like this. All right. I think this is just fine as a footpath, and I'm gonna save this, and I'm gonna use this my foot as our whole material. Right, and I'm gonna select this, go to my character blueprint and select my component. I'm gonna hit this arrow icon and select our new material, and I'm gonna do the same thing for the other component. Right, and I'm gonna compile and save this. Right, now let's try to play our game. Right, now we have something like this. Okay. Right, now it looks like a foot. Maybe not, but of course you can completely customize that as you wish. Also, you can simply open the master material like this, and it's a very simple material, and you can simply customize this as you need, and you can create your own logic and create a very interesting brush. And also we have a brush for the texture as well. Basically you can assign a texture like this, for example like this, and you can rotate it as you wish, and yep, create something like this. All right, that's about brushes, so we can continue with our tutorial. Right, so I'm gonna play this level again. Now you can see footpath like this, but right now I'm gonna select the deform manager, the world outline. I'm gonna show you some of the settings over here, and here I'm gonna select the play character just because I need to show you some of the settings like this. Okay, all right. And right now how we are communicating with the HeightField Mesh and our character blueprints is using render targets. So basically here we have a hidden render target moving along with the character. Right now the render target width is 248, so basically a 2K texture, and the area is 4K. So basically it covers an area of like 4 kilometer range, you can see over here, and basically, and it has a texture, but the actual texture is about 2K. Here we represent 2 centimeters with a simple pixel. So that's the whole idea. But if you want to change this, for example, let's like change this to 1024 and target area with 2024. So it's quite a small area. So I can play my game like this. Okay, you can see it's changing as I walk over here. It's changing, and yeah. So you don't see the quite a lot of changes, and this is not really helpful. So all you can do is you can simply increase this target area width. For example, I'm going to increase this to 8 folds, something like this, and then it still works like this. And but the only problem is you don't see much detail. If your texture has some details, and then it won't show you quite good as you expected. But if you are doing something like this is totally fine, because the reason is now we are representing 8 centimeters using a single pixel. You don't need to stick with 1024. You can basically change this to maybe 4K as well, maybe go beyond that and try to play with your project, and if that works, then simply use this. So I'm going to set this back to defaults. Alright, the other thing is RVD invalidation radius. So basically here we are invalidating the RVT close to the player character with a radius of 100 centimeters after each and every time. So basically it's each and every frame. We can change this value. For example, let's put something like 1 centimeter. So then you can see some cracks like this, because it's not invalidating the RVT quite often. So that's why you can see some cracks like this. So we don't want to do that, and that's why we put 100. It's a good default amount. But if you put some higher value, it might affect the performance of your game as well. Right, then the other setting is RVD invalidation time threshold. So here we have a quite small number. Basically it will simply change the RVT for each and every frame. If you put something like 1, so it will try to change your landscape after every second. So again you can see some cracks, because yeah, it's not gonna work. But sometimes you can put a value like 0.1, so it will change the RVT for every 100 milliseconds. So it will do something like this kind of like a step by step. But if you have some sort of like Niagara effect or something from your foot, so then this is still gonna work and it's just fine. So basically you can tweak this value as you wish, and try to find some sweet spot. Alright, now I think we are almost done with talking about some of the settings and how to configure all these things. And also here we have the component, and basically you can open this component from the content, OpenLand, blueprints, deform, OpenLand Deform blueprint. It's a simple blueprint. Right now you can simply go through this blueprint and understand exactly what's happening and customize it as you wish. Alright, now we have covered quite a lot of details about this landscape deformation frameworks come with OpenLand. Right now I'm gonna try to create this functionality from scratch using a custom material, so you have a proper understanding of how it works from the material perspective. So then you can easily customize your OpenLand material, or maybe you can use this functionality for a different material like maybe Brushify or something custom that you created. Alright, let's try to do that. Okay, let's create a new level, file, new level, and I'm going to create an empty level. Then I'm going to save this level as tutorial 2. Then I'm going to open the OpenLand blueprints, and here we have an actor called Sun Sky. I'm going to drag that into my blueprint. So basically it will give me some sun and sky atmosphere. And again here we need to enable the virtual texture in the project settings and the virtual HeightField Mesh support. And if you're just watching this part, and go to the beginning of this video and try to see how to add the virtual texture support and the HeightField Mesh support. Right, then I'm going to create a new landscape. Go to the landscape mode. Now for the material, I'm going to leave it empty for right now, and I have a simple landscape. I'm going to create it. Okay, like earlier, I'll do some sculpting a little bit. And the reason is, since you are using the virtual HeightField Mesh support, and sometimes it's need to have some sort of height in our landscape, otherwise it won't work sometimes. So that's why we are doing this. Then I'm going to create a new landscape material so we can add the deform functionality. Right here, I'm going to create a new folder called maps, and I'm going to create a new material m_landscape. And here I'm going to create a new material instance so I can easily change the parameters mi landscape. Now I'm going to use this material as my landscape material of this landscape. I'm going to select this, select the landscape, and hit this arrow icon. So I'm using this material as my landscape material. You get the idea. Right, I'm gonna go to file and save all. I'm gonna save everything. So you can see something like this, and that's totally fine. Just play your game once. Yeah, it will fix everything. Right, then I'm gonna open my material. It's a simple material. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this into a material attribute space material. Here we have option in the details panel called use material attributes. I'm going to select that. Right, then I'm going to right click and create a node called set material attributes. I'm going to select base color, and I'm going to add the normal, and I'm going to add the roughness, and I'm going to add the world position offset. So you might wonder why we need to use world position offset, because other things are quite usual. I'm going to show you why in a moment that we need to use world position offset. Then I'm going to hit T and create a texture sample. And from here you can select any texture you like, but I have a sand texture. I'm going to use that. Of course you can choose anything you like. I'm going to put the RGB into the base color. Gonna select this and hit this search icon, and it will open the content directly with the location. I'm gonna select the normal map again, hit T and click over here, and I have this texture sample with the normal, and I'm gonna select it, and I'm gonna set that into the normal map, and I'm gonna do that the same thing for the roughness map as well. Okay, right, then I'm gonna set that as my material attributes for the landscape, and I'm gonna save this. Right, now we have a simple sand texture. Okay, now I can play my level, and yep, you have something like this. Okay, this is exactly what we need. Now I'm gonna convert this into a RVT based landscape material. So there are some tools come with OpenLand, so you can simply use them. Right click and search for OpenLand, and here we have something called OpenLand RVT prepare output. So I'm gonna select that. So then I'm gonna send these material attributes to this slot. Okay, then I'm gonna right click and search for runtime virtual texture output. Now I'm gonna connect everything accordingly: base color to base color, specular to specular, roughness, normal, and the world height and the mask. Here this node will set up everything for RVT, and yep, you are ready to go. Right now I'm gonna save this material. Right, then I can add the Virtual HeightField Mesh support, and so that's the main requirement for the landscape deformation support. All right, I'm gonna go to the OpenLand widgets, and here we have a widget called OpenLand HFMesh widget. I'm gonna right click and run editor utility widget, and I'm gonna hit this add HFMesh support. Again, I'm gonna select the volume height. I'm gonna select the virtual texture as RVT OpenLand height, and I'm going to select the other one, RVT volume material. I'm going to select the virtual texture as RVT OpenLand material. And for the virtual HFMesh actor on the world outline, and I'm going to select the virtual texture as RVT volume height. Okay, then I'm going to select my landscape, search virtual, and here I'm going to select the draw in main pass to never. So now we are only rendering the Virtual HeightField Mesh on the game, and yep, that's exactly what we need. Okay, it's cool. Now I'm going to select my landscape and search for dynamic. I'm going to enable this use dynamic material instance support. So with this we can control the material parameters of this landscape using blueprints. Then I'm going to go to the content, OpenLand blueprints, deform. Here we have a blueprint called OpenLand Deform Manager. I'm going to drag that into my scene. Okay, and I have explained how this Deform Manager works, and I'm going to select the follow play character so we can see some trails. I'm going to play this game, and so basically there's nothing happening because we haven't added the deform functionality to our landscape yet. Alright, it's quite easy to do. I'm going to right click and search for read, and here we have a node called read OpenLand Deform Data. Here we have something called max height. I'm going to create a new scalar parameter. Right click, scalar parameter like this. max. I'm gonna give it a name as max height and put that to 25, so we can control the height like this. Okay, and then we have some existing normals. I'm gonna use this as the existing normal, right? And then here we have the normal maps, the modified normal. I'm gonna select that into this slot. And then we have the world position or offset, WPO. I'm going to select that into the world position offset of these material attributes. Basically, this world position offset has some changes of this landscape, and that's how we can deform our landscape. And here, if you already have a world position offset, you can connect that into this existing WPO. So you can keep the existing WPO as well. Right. And I'll talk about these apply marks in a moment. Right now, I'm going to save everything and I'm going to play my game. Right, now you can see the trail support like this that we have seen in the OpenLand material. But now we created this from scratch in a custom material, and yeah, it's working just fine. Now I can enter Shift and F1. So then I can get access to my editor, and I'm gonna select the landscape and search for the material instance of my landscape. And right now I can change the max height. For example, let's put something like 100. Yeah, you can see something like this. Then I can play my game. Yeah, like this. So that's why we export this as a parameter. You can change this as you wish. Right, and here about this apply mask. So basically it's a mask that you can apply the deform functionality. For example, let's say I only need to apply this deformation for after some certain height. Let's say after 100 centimeters, and here's how to do that. So I'm gonna get the world position, not current world position. I'm gonna do a component mask, and here I'm gonna get the blue channel, so that's the C channel, height channel. Then I'm gonna divide this by 100, and I'm gonna saturate this. So basically, so it will do the maximum deformation after 100 centimeters. Then I'm gonna put that as my apply mask like this. Then I'm gonna save this. Right. Then if I play my game, but still it does the behavior. I think I know the reason, and the reason is our landscape is already at the 100 centimeter level. So let's try to create a parameter for this one, and we can change this. Press S on your keyboard and simply click on your landscape material, and you have the scalar parameter, and give it a name like height mask, something like this. Give it a name you like, and here I'm going to set the default value to 200, and I'm going to set that as here. I'm going to save it. So the idea is I can change this as I'm playing my game. All right, I'm going to enable this height mask on my material instance. I'm going to play this. Right, now you can see it's getting reduced like this. Okay, and I'm gonna I'm gonna change this value to 300. Right, okay, now we have something little over here. But if I try to walk over here, now you can see over here I can get the maximum height like this 100 centimeters of my height mask. Then if I go to a place like this, quite low, and I can even increase this value. Let's give something like 500. Yeah, then it's getting reduced even further. So that's the behavior of this apply mask, so you can use that. Right, and there are some other functionality. For example, here we have something called normalized deformation. So basically it's a value that you can see the deformation. For example, I can set that as my base color over here. I'm going to save this. Right, now it says a black landscape. That's totally fine. I'm going to play my game. Now you can see a white area like this. So that's the mask of my deformation. So you can use this mask to do something interesting in your landscape material. Maybe try to change the color of this deformation area or do something interesting. Okay, that's the normalized deformation like this. And there's another one called deform mask. I'm going to use that as well as the base color. Right, it's almost similar to the previous one, and then the difference is here it uses it's a mask almost 1 for the most of the area. So if you have values like, let's say 0.5 on this depth, but even here in this mask it will capture this as 1 even in that case. So now you have proper understanding of how to use this OpenLand deformation data in your own landscape and customize as you need. So if you're using Brushify, you can simply hook this up and and try to do the deformation that you're using or your custom material. So even if you're using OpenLand landscape material, you can customize the existing functionality and try to create something interesting. For example, let me show you the OpenLand's integration of this function so you can get an idea of how you're going to use in a real life situation. I'm going to open the core material of OpenLand, landscape material, go to OpenLand, core, materials, and here we have a material called m_OpenLand. Right, here we have a function called mfol handle deformation, and then this is the custom material function that implements all the deformation logic and basically read OpenLand Deform Data and do some interesting things. So here, so you can double click and open this and try to customize this and how it works basically. So first thing you can see over here, we're going to enable this only when there's virtual text support. That's what this node does. You can see we are using this read OpenLand Deform Data, and you can see we get the existing normals, put it over here, existing world position offset, and put it over here like this. But here we don't use this normalized deformation and normal deform mask in this case. Right, in here we have the apply mask, quite interesting. So here we are sampling all the sand alpha. We consider sand and sand alpha as a single thing. So like custom one, so we're gonna get all these layers. Here we are going to use 4 layers: sand alpha, custom 1, custom 2, and the puddle. And we're gonna add them together using the O section, and we're gonna create a single mask. So here our apply mask is the total combination of all these landscape layers. And for the max height, we use something interesting, and we sample the paint layer. We have value for each and every layer for the height like this, and then we're gonna combine them after that using that and put this into the max height section. So even we have a single value for the max height, but you can have a different value for each and every paint layer. So think this paint layer as some sort of mask, so you can have a different max height value for each and every mask, even if you're using a single node here. And of course you can use the 2 of these nodes. In that case, we gonna duplicate some of the works inside this function, but in this function we don't do any complex stuff. Basically we sample a texture 4 times, and then we do some like calculation like cross product, and it's quite efficient. Right, now you have a proper understanding of how to use the OpenLand's deform functionality, and I have give you a lot of details so you can try to play with this and create your own, and that's the whole idea. Try not to use the default functionality that comes with the material, but tweak it and create something on your own. And we are continue to improve on this, and we're gonna push a lot of changes quite soon. Right now we only have the support for the characters as well, but soon we're gonna add support for like cars and vehicles and other game modes in Unreal Engine. But if you are watching this video quite after some time, so that functionality is already enabled in OpenLand. All right, see you soon with something interesting. Bye.